I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Ali Mattu, and I'm going to show you the easiest, fastest, most powerful way to calm your body down in 30 seconds. And all you need is some cold water. I just made a video about how to manage stress, and while I think it's pretty helpful for everyday stress, it doesn't really help much for really intense emotions. I mean the emotions that put you at risk for potentially doing something dangerous or hurting yourself or getting yourself into trouble, or emotions that are really hard to tolerate. Stuff like intense sadness, intense panic, or strong rage. My favorite way to deal with those intense emotions comes from dialectical behavior therapy, and a skill in DBT called the tipp skill. The tipp skill is all about tipping the temperature of your body chemistry to bring down those very intense emotions quickly. The skill I want to talk to you about is the dive reflex. And before I go into details about it, I need to take a moment and explain how amazing the dive reflex is. It's not just something humans share with other mammals, it's something we share with all vertebrates, all animals that have a backbone. It actually is quite moving to me that when I think about how in our most difficult times we can call upon this reflex that we share with so many other living beings on this planet. That's just amazing. This reflex is triggered whenever we are submerged in cold water, and it's a safety reflex designed to conserve the oxygen that is in our body. It's designed to help us stay alive underwater as long as we can. It reduces our heart rate tremendously. It diverts blood flow towards our brain and our heart. It prioritizes those two things. And in doing so, it also helps us to resist water pressure. So we can actually be deeper than we normally can. And it also conserves the temperature in our body. So all those things collectively help us to stay alive underwater, and to be in a situation that we're usually not really in. It's a safety mechanism, and it kicks in without any thinking. What's so cool about all of those changes is they involve the part of your nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, that's designed to calm you down. The sympathetic nervous system, it's what activates you. The parasympathetic nervous system is what calms you down. And we can use that, we can harness those changes to help you feel more calm when you are experiencing a very intense emotion. The way we do it is to fool your body into thinking you're being submerged in cold water. A lot of people like to do this by pouring cold water into their sink, into their bathroom sink or kitchen sink, closing up the drain and filling up that sink with water. I don't like doing that for a couple of reasons. One is I'm pretty tall, and so it's actually kind of hard for me to bend over and get my head into the sink. It's just I'm much farther away from it, so it's not very comfortable for me to do that. Number two is I actually like to sit while I'm doing this. It helps me to feel even more calm. So the way I do it is I get a big bowl, big enough for me to actually put my head in, and I fill this up with cold water. Now, how cold does the water need to be? That kind of depends on you. I would experiment with this a little bit until you're able to find a temperature that kind of works for you. I like putting ice cubes in it. It kind of brings down the temperature a little bit more. That's optional. You might not have to do this yourself. If you're in a situation like school or work and you can't easily do this, you have a few other options. You can take a big giant Ziploc bag and put water in there. You can have a cold compress. Maybe you can go to a nurse's office at school, or maybe you can have one of these, something like that, in your work freezer if you have one. You can also take a paper towel or a towel and wet that with cold water. You can simulate some of those things, but they're not going to be as effective, because what needs to happen is this area over here, sort of your eyes and your nose area, and especially inside your nostrils. These areas need to be exposed to cold water. That's number one. Number two, you have to hold your breath. And number three, you have to keep that going for about 15 to 30 seconds. Those are the combination of things that are required to trigger this reflex. All of this works best if you're in an environment where there's not too many distractions and you can just kind of focus in on this. That being said, if you're in a tough spot, you're surrounded by a lot of people, go to a bathroom stall and you can replicate some of this stuff. Oh, I've even done this with a really cold bottle of water. Taking a bottle of water, putting it in the freezer for a little bit, that kind of brings down the temperature, and then kind of squeezing it around. That's another way to kind of replicate this. You could take that with you to the bathroom stall, put it around, and it gets pretty close. I'm going to show you how this actually works. First thing I want to do is get my heart rate. So I'm going to take my heart rate right now on my phone. I've been kind of talking quickly, so maybe my heart rate is a little bit higher than usual. Yeah, it looks like it's just a little up, 87 beats per minute. Should probably tuck my tie away because that would be not very smart. That tie would probably get kind of wet. Some people like to breathe out right before they do this. Some people like to breathe in. It doesn't really matter. Here we go. I'm gonna check my heart rate. 71 beats per minute. So you can see already it dropped down just after a little bit. It's a hard sensation to describe, but I can feel something happening, and I can feel the change in blood flow. I should also mention that if you have a heart condition, or if you have a medical condition, or you take medication that might have any impact here on your blood pressure, on your heart, on your cardiovascular functioning, you want to talk to your doctor before you do anything like this. The reason for that is because you are reducing your heart rate. So if you're vulnerable to any problems, any cardiovascular problems, you really need to make sure that that's all cleared before you do anything like this. The other thing to mention is this won't solve your problem. Whatever is the thing that got you really intensely panicked or angry or sad, this isn't going to stop those things. What it is going to do is it's going to help you to stay in that moment, or it's going to help you keep you from doing something that might cause you a lot of problems. And it's going to get you out of that, what they describe in DBT as emotion mind, where you're very likely to make highly emotional decisions or act in an emotional way. And it gets you a little bit closer to being in a wise mind, the perspective where you're integrating your emotions and your reason. You're kind of approaching things in a much more balanced way. If it doesn't help out enough, you can do it again. And the other thing you can always do is you can do some of the other tip skills from DBT, like deep breathing, like muscle relaxation. Those things can be very helpful. There's something else. What else am I forgetting from tip? Yes. Intense exercise. That's the I in tip. You can also follow up with the strategies I talk about in my stress management video. There's a few other things there that might be helpful for folks to kind of ride out whatever distressing experience you might be going through. If none of this is an option, if you just can't get access to cold water or anything like that, you can still get some benefits of changing your body temperature by grabbing something like an ice cube and holding it in your hands. Sometimes that sudden change in temperature that I'm feeling in my hands feel very cold right now, that can be enough to kind of jolt your nervous system and kind of distract you a bit from those intense feelings. Or the other thing you can do is you can take some ice cubes, put them in my mouth, hold them down. I won't chew the ice in case you might experience misophonia. I don't want to trigger anyone watching this video. The other ways you can change your temperature is by splashing cold water on your face a bunch of times, and you can take a really cold shower. If it's cold outside, you can go outside into the cold, and that jolt of cold might be enough to kind of change your temperature that way as well. Sometimes a really cold beverage can do the trick as well. Have you ever used the dive reflex, and if so, how'd it go? Let me know in the comments below. I want to thank Your Favorite Platypus for posting a question that actually got me thinking about making this video, so thank you so much. Your comments are always super helpful in getting me to think about what to make next. I also want to thank everyone on Instagram, on Twitter, as well as the YouTube community tab over here on this channel for responding to my survey that helped me decide to make this video instead of making the other one. So thank you everyone over there. And last but not least, I want to welcome my new patron, Sri S. Thank you for becoming a patron of The Psych Show. If you want to help me make some of this content and get behind the scenes stuff in return, check out patreon.com/The Psych Show. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Be sure to share this with someone who might benefit from it. And if you want more videos that celebrate mental health and make psychology fun and easy to understand, be sure to, what do? You subscribe to The Psych Show.